Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul.
And we are SP Film Viewers.
In today's episode, Sophie will be giving her thoughts on Casablanca.
Yep, that is right. So we thought we'd Paul thought he'd pick a really old film that's black and white for me, wouldn't you?
Not the oldest you've seen, though, I should say, because King Kong is
True, and
the oldest you've seen out of this lot.
So I feel like when it's a romance and it's black and white, it kind of adds more of an appeal to it than an action, so to speak.
I get what you mean. That's why I picked this one out, because I thought you'd like it for that regard.
And it does kind of the black and white, especially I thought in this the lighting was really nice. It had a good kind of black and white contrast, and it had its grayscales, but it wasn't like too dark and murky. You couldn't see what was going on because it was so well done in black and white. It didn't actually impact the story or the film or anything like that, because I feel like they did have a lot of different tones. So you had like the captain more in white, and he was like stark white, and then you had a contrast of somebody that was a bit more of a badder character in a darker colour.
Yeah, I get the sense of what you mean. Yeah,
I do think it also reminded me a little bit of It's a Wonderful Life, the style of the old classic and the way that they speak.
That's just how it was back then.
Yeah, so I think and I know we had to put the subtitles.
Yeah, I don't know, for some reason the audio track on this was very, very quiet. And I thought, well, best for you to understand what they're actually saying as well at some points, because even though I was like going, if I didn't have subtitles, I'd be like, what?
Yeah, you did get a little bit to be...
I've seen it before, but it's for the extra benefit of you, rather than you going like, what does that say? Or what did he say?
Yeah, because I do that a lot, and I think it was because they're in a saloon, and it was kind of all quite secretive as well. It felt like there was a lot of whispering in dark corners, it felt, so I think that's why it was done. But as well because it's like I know we're British, but it is quite a strong kind of posh, it sounds like a well-spoken English compared to our English now.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. It's again just the way that people spoke.
They spoke properly compared to how we do nowadays. Yeah. And I think that sometimes was harder to understand. So with the film, there was a lot of iconic lines.
Very famous lines in this.
And there's obviously some famous songs as well. So the couple of lines that we've noticed was, which I don't actually understand. I had to Google it to figure out. I knew it was in terms of endearment, but how it was complimentary or flattering, I wasn't really sure. And I'll let you say the line because you make me laugh when you say it.
He's looking at you, kid.
Now, I don't know, like, his looking at you, I guess, is somewhat flattering. Like, he's attracted to look at her. He's not repulsed by her, I guess. But the kid bit, it's like, is that meaning she's young and youthful and pretty?
I guess you can take it that way. You're not like literally like a kid.
Yeah.
But the youthful aspect of that, and it's just like a just an endearing way of.
I don't know. Don't start saying it to me because I won't find it endearing. I'll find it a bit weird.
Say that to you to wind you up.
Like, it just doesn't make sense, and I don't know how you would respond back to it.
I don't think it.
Or you just like smile. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's.
I
seemed to work in the film, so.
Yeah, I guess it did. I know that Rick did say a lot of, I stick my neck out for nobody. I captured that a lot. He's like a lone wolf. He's not going to help anyone, but actually he's a true sentimental man at heart and does actually help a lot of people and look out for them without...
Yeah, for the right people, I guess.
Yeah. Also, there's like, of all places in the world, Elsa had to enter into Rick's bar or saloon.
Yeah, something along those lines, yeah. Of all the places in all the world, she had to come to mine or
because
something
they
like that.
Had a little bit of a romance in Paris, didn't they?
Yes.
Did Elsa and Rick. And I could tell that she didn't actually want to, like, run off away with him. And there was something a little bit suspect about her.
Yeah, it wasn't giving the game away at that point, though, was it?
No, but I knew she wasn't gonna. I knew she was gonna leave him standing at the train. I could already from the dialogue know that was gonna happen, and she didn't truly want to, but she didn't know how to say no to him. So instead of saying no, she just left him standing there waiting for her and heartbroken. So it kind of then, when you see that happening, your thought for her kind of changes and shifts, and you're thinking, well, what is her motive? Why did she do that? What's driven that? And I think this was where I was thinking, is there going to be a good love triangle? Or is she just actually, because obviously it was set wartime, wasn't it?
Yeah, during the Second World War, yeah.
I was thinking, oh, well, maybe she's on the wrong side.
Yeah, very valid point, yeah.
So she can't elope with him, or...
Yeah.
Yeah, so something like that. I was thinking there was maybe some more of the reason of why she wouldn't. Obviously, she's very, very pretty, and everybody says she's like the most beautiful woman to walk the streets of Casablanca and anywhere else.
Like when she enters a room, everybody turns, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so she kind of seems to, when she knows she's at Rick's, pull on his heartstrings a little bit, I feel. So she gets Sam to play I'm guessing it's their song, so to speak.
Sam the Piano Man, as you've written down.
Yeah. I have Sam the Pan Man from Lord of the Rings and Sam the Piano Man. He was such a lovable character, I feel. I feel like he was really valued for me.
Yeah.
He was like a genuine friend to Rick and didn't want to see him get hurt by Elsa again and didn't want any of that going on. He wanted to protect his friend and didn't want to play the song as time goes by.
Yeah.
And this is like obviously playing a song for a couple who have this song dear to the heart.
Yeah.
And obviously every time you hear that playing, you'd associate it with that person.
Yeah, it triggers the memories of days gone by.
Good or bad.
Yeah.
And obviously Rick walks in and sees Sam playing this and he's like, why are you playing this?
Yeah, I told you never to play that again, and then it's you.
Yeah, a bit of an awkward encounter with like an somewhat ex, really, I guess, isn't it? Like
in theory.
So I just think to myself, well, why has she done that? She's drawing attention to herself. And the plot thickens, and obviously she's with this man called Victor Laszlo.
Yeah.
Which we find out later is actually her husband, and she's been married to him for God knows how long. So basically that's why she wouldn't elope with Rick.
Yeah, because he was put into a concentration camp at that point, so that technically and as far as she knew, he was dead at that point.
So she says. I still don't believe her.
Right, okay. No, I think the storyline gives it that impression that she genuinely didn't know that he was dead, and
then she found
out, that he wasn't, and then it's like, oh,
I can't go with Rick now. I'll have to go for my husband. I do think she genuinely loves Rick. I think there is something there that is genuine love, but obviously, is it more lust than love? Maybe, because I don't really know. They don't know much about one another,
as they do say. Yeah.
So I feel like, is it more based on
like a fling or kind of
like a summer romance or something in the summer, and then it doesn't last any longer than that.
Yeah.
So I knew I really liked Rick as a character and I liked Sam as a character. I couldn't really put my finger on Victor. I just felt like he was a bit obnoxious and one of those like know-it-all people that would want anybody to stick the neck out for him, in a sense, because he's so high importance, because he's got this purpose and he wants to make an impact.
Yeah, against the German army and all that stuff. But yeah.
But I think the one character was Elsa. I was like, just don't trust her. And I think this was even correct for me to even think further down the line, where there was these documentations. Is it like a visa to get?
Yeah, the papers they call them. Yeah. To
get them from Casablanca to get on a plane to get to America.
Okay. Yeah, land of the free and all that.
Yeah, it was back then.
Yeah.
So obviously Rick has these papers and he won't give them to Victor, and basically Elsa squirms her way in, and she always appears when she wants something, and I feel like with this scene, this made me kind of think, I don't believe actually anything you ever say ever again. You've broken me trust, because one minute she was manipulating, saying that she really needed to go with her husband and they weren't safe here. Then she points a gun at him and says, I'm going to shoot you, give me the papers. She's like a bit of a schizophrenic. And then the next bit she's like, oh, I love you, Rick. And I'm like, literally in the space of about 10 minutes, I'm like, Jesus, how can this actually happen? Where you've 1 minute gone, I need to go for my safety. No, I'll stay with you because I love you, but I was just going to shoot you.
Yeah.
I'm like, I do not like this girl. She's just trouble now. She's just messing with poor Rick's brain just for the paper.
Only looking out for herself, really.
Yeah.
Her best interests.
She doesn't care who she hurts, or because I think she's one of those stereotypical types who's so beautiful.
Thinks she can get away with anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the case. She doesn't want to work hard for anything, and she just flutters her eyelashes, and everyone will swoon over her.
Yeah.
It's a shame that life doesn't work like that for me, isn't it?
I guess you can class her as a femme fatale, I suppose, in a sense.
What does that mean?
What you practically just described, where it's the beauty of a lady who can just, as you said, bat her eyelids and everything, but she's got ulterior motives behind everything that she does just to get away.
She's literally like that. And it's just not fair, is it, really? I do feel for Rick in all of this. If anyone I do feel for, it is him. Because I feel like he's been getting dragged through the most emotional roller coaster with her damage that she's doing.
Yeah. I think I noticed about Rick, which was, like you pointed out before, he's in a white suit when he's in Casablanca. But I noticed before all this, he was in a darker suit. I don't know if there's meant to be any connotation there with maybe that he feels pure and clean, so to speak, when he's out there in Casablanca, out of the way of everybody, even though he's obviously doesn't really want to be there. He'd rather be back in America. But I don't know.
I feel like it was because he had an innocence of him. He was a good person at the beginning, and he was like, that was why he was wearing white at the beginning, and he was clean, and then the further along. No,
I don't think it wasn't. It didn't change. It was in the flashbacks he had. It was in like a normal dark suit.
When he
was... normally, in an instance, I'd say yes, he would be wearing a white suit because he was like innocent thing. But then dark things make you turn to a darker coloured demeanour in your clothing or whatever. But
it was more his flashbacks were
darker clothes. But I don't know whether that's maybe to make him stand out against everybody else.
Perhaps. It definitely does. I feel like he does with the white.
He's the owner of the club, and
and because of the colouring and everything, it does actually stand out. But I think it did get a little bit darker further along the storyline, and I feel like the actual lighting got darker as well.
Yeah.
And it was more greys were coming into it, and the white wasn't as prominent as the start of the film.
Yeah.
And I think that's because of what Ilsa kind of brought to it, I believe. So I did have a nice other little side liking of the captain.
Yes.
He was quite a good character. He was quite funny for a captain because he was quirky, he'd get along with everybody, and he was quite doing his own work behind his captain job.
Yeah.
He knew how to easily manipulate people, but he was doing it for the good of people. Mm-hmm. And he did manipulate Rick with that couple. Do you remember the young couple that needed
I remember,
some money, and he ends up fudging the casino.
Wheel, so that he can make an escape,
So you can tell that Rick actually does have a heart of gold, and I think Ilsa knows this. So at the end, there's a bit of a twist. We've gathered that Elsa and Rick, for whatever reason, are gonna run away together and leave Victor on his own, basically. And it looks like Rick's gonna get Victor arrested for getting the illegal papers. And then the plot twists again to where it's a case of you've got Rick pointing a gun at the captain. And I was like, oh, what? I thought they were in cahoots. I don't understand. And I didn't see this coming. And then it's a case of he's letting Victor and Floozy off on the plane to America. And I was like, okay. And you can tell he's doing that because he actually genuinely does love her. He's letting her go in a sense. And not for a selfish reason. I was so glad he wasn't getting on the plane with her, to be honest, because it's like, you deserve so much better than her, mate. You really do. She's rung you ragged since she's got here. But...
yeah, I think he made the sensible decision there and go with him. And it's kind of like, I kind of never want to see you again type of thing.
And she's absolutely heartbroken. So the amount of times that she's been kind of tagging him along and like kind of leading him on with things, he's actually got his upcomings in a sense from it. The circle of karma has come back quite quickly on her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like kind of dumbfounded and doesn't know what to do, because she's now thinks in her head she wants to be with him, but I think she's just selfishly thinking that. I don't actually think she loves either properly. I think Rick does genuinely love her. I think she just cares.
I think he cares probably more so than loves her at the end of it all. That's probably why he did what he did. But
yeah, I don't think he wants her part of his life.
Yeah, because it's too complicated.
Too much hassle. It feels like he's more wanting to kind of carry on his quiet, somewhat life, even though he's sold his saloon. And they end up kind of, it makes me laugh, I think the captain's called Louis. They end up kind of being a case of him and Louis create a good friendship, and them two are kind of walking off into the sunset at the end.
Or into the fog is that's what happens in there, yeah. And that's another line where they said, this is the start of a beautiful friendship.
And I did like their relationship they had.
Yeah.
There was a good, I think I always do like, in any film, a good kind of relationship and good banter with characters and such. There was favourable characters, and there was one character who I ended up a bit despising, which is the leading lady.
Right.
So, have I got everything there, do you think?
But yeah, there was the other part, wasn't there, where Germans are singing their national anthem in the saloon, and then Victor comes along and tries to outdo them by getting the band to play the French national anthem over the top, sort of like, sticking it to the Germans, like, we're not tolerating you with all these war efforts that you're trying to...
Which he does have a good purpose and a good manner about him, but he's a bit just obnoxious, I think, is Victor.
Comes across that way a little bit, but...
He does a little bit. The way
trying to,
it's just his presence, but I feel like he does have a good character, because I can imagine people being like that back then, even more so.
Yeah, headstrong and the way they approach things, but yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed this one.
Yeah.
Makes me think that actually an old film doesn't have to be, because I used to think, oh, it's black and white, it's really old, I'm not interested, and actually sometimes it's got better content than...
I think it is a case of knowing what are the best ones. I know if you're sifting through the pile of stuff, there'd probably be some really, really poorly acted black and white films, but it's kind of like knowing what are the more acclaimed pieces of cinema that are black and white.
Because when you said it initially, you told me the age of it, I was like... And then I was like, what's it about? And then you were like, told me the name and the title, and thinking, well, that still doesn't give me any clue of what the film is actually about. And then I kind of saw the cover and I was like, oh, is it a romance?
Yeah, it's sort of classic. It's like a drama romance set in the World War II.
I think I just loved the era it had as well. I love the clothing. I love the way that they are kind of so prim and proper about everything, I guess. They're not like nowadays, I guess. I feel like they had a bit more structure and a bit more respect.
More standards, yeah.
Yeah.
Because despite it being a war film, it's not particularly brutal or dark in that sense in any way. And
there was no blood or anything like that. So like somebody did get shot, and there was...
Yeah. I think it's a U rating, so...
Really?
That's fair. Yeah, so there's no blood or anything shown in that, so... But yeah.
It's just something pleasant to watch, and it didn't seem to be a struggle, apart from understanding what they were saying at times. To watch it kind of, the time flew by quite quickly.
It does, yeah.
Which I didn't think it would do, because it's like sometimes the old films, the dialogue and stuff like that can kind of drag on a little bit. They seem to...
The runtime is about an hour and a half, so it might be why it flew by, because normally these films these days are normally like 2 hours going on. Even that sometimes, and you're like, it can be a slog at times, but
I don't think this needed to be any longer than it was. No. It was just the right amount of time
to tell the story of what went on. But yeah, what is your final score?
I can't even fault the fact of how old it is. I really actually loved the black and white contrast and lighting. I think that's probably my photography side coming out of me when it's done correctly, and I can actually see something. So like, I feel like King Kong was a bit dark, and I feel like you couldn't really see what was going on, for sometimes you could just hear some screaming.
Yeah, there was a bit of a time difference, obviously, between this and that. So there maybe roughly about 10 years difference.
So you can see how it's progressed.
Yeah, that's inevitable with
but
how things go.
The lighting, and also there was there was
the atmosphere.
Shadows as well. I don't know if you saw, there was some clever imagery with where they did
yes
the shadows. Okay. So there was like one scene where he was going into this cupboard and you could see
the safe.
Yes, the safe, and you can see a silhouette of Rick.
Yeah.
And I think they're called bohos, where it's like you've got the reflection of lines or something like that. So like from the window.
Where the shadows cast, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So like, let's say you've got lines on the windows and you can see it shadow casting on the walls and such. Okay. So it's just like details to that which added more kind of appeal visually to it. The storyline I thought was really, really gripping. I didn't see the ending being that. Annoyingly, I thought Rick was going to end up...
Yeah, that would have been the predictable.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I didn't want that ending. So I was so glad that I didn't get it. But I didn't know what the ending is I wanted. Because I hadn't even thought that this was an ending in my head.
Right, okay.
So with all that kind of covered, I would say also it's definitely got points for the fact that it is somewhat a romance. Even though the main guy doesn't end up with the leading lady.
Yeah. So
I would score it a 9.
Wow.
What about you?
I'm the same.
Really?
Yeah. The way the characters are portrayed and everything, and I think there's some part of me that really does like that sort of that era of black and white. There's just something about it that resonates with me.
I feel like it's more appealing as well, and I've noticed sometimes when I look at photos, like if it's like from like your grandparents or anything like that era and that style, I think it just kind of brings a whole new kind of
aspect to how things were.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes we should take a little bit from that. Like, I like the fact that they were genuinely just pretty girls. They didn't have to be dolled up and be showing off their legs and stuff to look.
It's just,
It was just, they were genuinely beautiful and they were reserved but yet still stunning. And I think that's what you kind of had the appeal of that era. And
everyone's all smartly dressed and everything, prim and proper.
Yeah, and spoken proper, and even though there was obviously a bit of shady things going on in the bar, it still seemed... You
just sometimes need a bit of that rather than proper scumbaggy characters.
Yeah.
That you don't gel with, whereas you can gel with majority of these characters.
Because they all have a purpose, I think, for everything that they're doing. I think that's the thing. I think sometimes we lose purpose of why we're doing things. And I feel like it's just because it's fun or it'll make me look good.
Yeah.
And it's not actually the sentimental purposes that I think the core values of people, I think sometimes we lose that a little bit in sight. So I think that's everything. So thank you so much for listening to us. I hope that you liked mine and Paul's thoughts. And that maybe it might encourage you to, if you don't normally watch black and white films like me and you're not very educated, it might make you want to actually spend a bit of time and have a look into it, because it is something worthwhile watching.
Yeah, or simply just to revisit a classic, because it is deemed one of the greatest films of all time, really.
Still think I'd want A Wonderful Life beforehand. Just because it's Christmas and it just tugs to my heartstrings a lot more.
Okay. So thank you once again for listening to us. You can find us on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, wherever else you might get your podcasts from. Of course, we're also on social media, on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. If you search for SP Film Viewers, you'll find us there.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll have another really good review for you next week.
Yep, so take care for now.
Take care and enjoy watching loads of movies if you're still in lockdown. See you later.
Bye for now.
Bye.